Chapter 21. The Vihara Palace prepare lodging for the great sage. Lingji of Sumeru crushes the wind demon. Ah! We shall now tell you, which not a bad idea. I mean, really, I should probably have broken this down into like 1 hour stints rather than two, but oh, this is really good. It's way more. I really liked that sortilege, but it's really sweet, and this isn't. So it's much more. Anyway, apologies. We shall now tell you about these 50 defeated little demons who rushed into the cave carrying their broken drums and torn banners. Great king, they cried, the tiger vanguard was no match for the hairy-faced monk. That monk chased him down the eastern slope until the vanguard disappeared. When the old monster heard this, he was terribly upset. As he bowed his head in silent deliberation, another little demon who stood guard at the door came to report, Great king! The tiger vanguard was beaten to death by the hairy-faced monk and dragged up to our door to provoke battle. Hearing this, the old monster became even angrier. This fellow does not know when to stop, he said. I have not eaten his master, but he has killed our vanguard instead. How insolent! Whereupon he bellowed, Bring me my armor. I have heard only rumors about this pilgrim's son, and I'm going to find out what sort of monk he really is. Even if he has 9 heads and 8 tails, I'm going to take him in here to pay for the life of my tiger vanguard. The little demons quickly brought out the armor. After having been properly buckled and laced, the old monster took a steel trident and leaped out of the cave, leading the rest of the demons. Standing in front of the door, the great sage watched the monster emerge with a truly aggressive appearance. Look how he is attired. You see, gold helmet reflecting the sun, gold cuirass gleaming with light, a pheasant tail tassel flies from the helmet, a light yellow silk robe topped by the cuirass. Tied with a dragon-like sash of brilliant hues, his breastplate emits eye-dazzling light. His boots of suede are dyed by locust flowers. His embroidered kilt is decked with willow leaves. Holding a sharp trident in his hands, he seems almost the Erlang boy of old. When he had come out, the old monster shouted, Who is Pilgrim's son? With one foot on the carcass of the tiger monster and the compliant iron rod in his hands, Pilgrim replied, Your grandpa's son is here. Send my master out. The old monster took a careful look and saw the diminutive figure of Pilgrim, less than 4 feet, in fact, and his sallow cheeks. He said with a laugh, Too bad, too bad. I thought you were some kind of invincible hero, but you were only a sickly ghost with nothing more than your skeleton left. That makes him a zombie, by the way. No, it makes him a skeleton. He doesn't even have flesh. Child, said Pilgrim, laughing, how you lack perception. Your grandpa may be somewhat small in size, but if you have the courage to hit me on the head with the handle of your trident, I'll grow 6 feet at once. Harden your head, said the monster, and have a taste of my handle. Our great sage was not in the least frightened. When the monster struck him once, he stretched his waist, and at once grew more than 6 feet, attaining the height of 10 feet altogether. The monster was so alarmed that he tried to use his trident to hold him down, shouting, Pilgrim's son, how dare you stand at my door, displaying this paltry magic of body protection? Stop using tricks. Come up here, and let's measure our real abilities. My dear son, said Pilgrim with laughter, the proverb says, mercy should be shown before the hand is raised. Ho, 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 ho. Something like that. My dear son, said Pilgrim with laughter, ho, 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 ho. The proverb says. I think that's what you're picturing. Mercy should be shown before the hand is raised. Your grandpa is pretty heavy-handed, and he fears that you won't be able to bear even one stroke of this rod. Refusing to listen to any such discussion, the monster turned his trident around and stabbed at Pilgrim's chest. The great sage, of course, was not at all perturbed, for as the saying goes, the expert is never exercised. He raised his rod and, using the movement of the black dragon sweeping the ground to parry the trident, struck at the monster's head. The two of them thus began a fierce battle before that yellow-wind cave. The monster king became enraged. The great sage released his might. The monster king became enraged, wishing to seize Pilgrim to pay for his vanguard. The great sage released his might, to capture the spirit and to save the priest. The trident arrived, blocked by the rod. The rod went forth, met by the trident. This one, a mountain-ruling captain of his hosts. That one, the handsome monkey king who defends the law. At first they fought on the dusty earth, then each arose midway to the sky. The fine steel trident, pointed, sharp, and brilliant. The compliant rod, body black and yellow hoops. Stabbed by them, your soul goes back to darkness. Struck by them, you'll face King Yama. You must rely on quick arms and keen sight. You must have a tough frame and great strength. The two fought without regard for life or death. We know not who will be safe or who will be hurt. The old monster and the great sage fought for 30 rounds, but neither could gain the upper hand. Pressing for a quick victory, Pilgrim decided to use the trick of the body beyond the body. He tore from himself a handful of hairs that he chewed to pieces in his mouth. Spitting them out, he cried, "Change!" They changed at once into more than 100 pilgrims, all having the same appearance and all holding an iron rod. They surrounded the monster in midair. Somewhat alarmed, the monster also resorted to his special talent. He turned to face the ground to the southwest and opened his mouth 3 times to blow out some air. Suddenly, a mighty yellow wind arose in the sky. Dear wind! It was indeed powerful. I am moderately alarmed. I am a trifle perturbed. I am somewhat inconvenienced. Cold and whistling. Anyway, I see a yellow wind. I'm expecting it to smell really bad. Just saying. Cold and whistling, it changed heaven and earth, as yellow sand whirled without form or shape. It cut through woods and hills to break pines and plums. It tossed up dirt and dust, cracking crags and cliffs. Waves churned in yellow river to cloud its floor. Tide and current swelled up at River Xiang. The Polestar Palace in the blue sky shook. The Hall of Darkness was almost blown down. The 500 Arhats all yelled and screamed. The 8 guards of Akshobhya all cried and shrieked. Manjushri's green-haired lion ran away. Visvabhadra lost his white elephant. Snake and turtle of Zhenwu left their fold. A flutter were the saddle flaps of Zitong's mule. Traveling merchants sent their cries to heaven, and boatmen bowed to make their many vows. Their mist-like lives awash in rolling waves. Their names, their fortunes, adrift in the tide. Imagine that lion had some kind of hair-dyeing accident. Caves on Genie Mountains were black as pitch. The Isle of Penglai was gloomy and dark. Laozi could not tend his elixir oven. Age Star folded his grapevine leaves. Sorry, let's try that again. Age Star folded his fan of grapevine leaves. As Queen Mother went to the Peaches Feast, the wind blew away her... The wind blew her skirt and pins awry. Didn't blow anything away. I'm sorry, I misread that. Erlang lost his way to the Guangzhou town. Nata found it hard to pull out his sword. Li Jing missed the pagoda in his hand. Luban dropped his golden-headed drill. While 3 stories of thunderclap fell down, the stone bridge at Zhaozhou broke in twain. The orb of the red sun had little light. The stars of all heaven grew obscure and faint. Birds of south mountains flew to northern hills. I mean, they're blowing down whole buildings. Water of East. Actually, this is just the old monster. He's just got such foul breath that he's just making all this happen. Where are we? Water of East Lake spilled over to the west. Fowls with mates broke up. They seized their calls. Mother and sons parted. Their cries turned mute. Dragon kings sought yakshas all over the sea. Thunder gods hunted lightnings everywhere. 10 kings of Yama tried to find their judge. In hell, Bullhead ran after Horseface. This wind blew down the Potolaka Mount and whipped up one scroll of Guanyin's verse. White lotus blooms cut down flew beside the sea. 12 halls of the Bodhisattva were blown down. From Pangu till this time, since wind was known, there was never such wind. There never was wind with such ferocity. Ooh, let's try that again. There never was wind with such ferocity. Hula la! The universe did almost split apart. The whole world was one mighty trembling mass. Now that is some yellow wind. This violent... yeah, you blew down my house. Time for torture headbands. This violent wind, called up by the monster, blew away all those little pilgrims formed by the great sage's hairs and sent them reeling through the air like so many spinning wheels. Unable to even wield their rods, how could they possibly hope to draw near to fight? Pilgrim was so alarmed that he shook his body and retrieved his hairs. I was afraid he was going to go bald, honestly. He then lifted the iron rod and tried to attack the monster all by himself, only to be met by a mouthful of yellow wind right on his face. Ah, those 2 fiery eyes with diamond pupils of his were so blasted that they shut tightly and could not be opened. No longer able to use his rod, he fled in defeat, while the monster retrieved the wind, which we shall mention no further. He lost a fight, fair and square. We tell you now about Zoo 8 Rules. Yeah, brush your teeth while you're at it. We tell you now about Zoo 8 Rules, who, when he saw the violent yellow windstorm arriving and the whole of heaven and earth growing dim, led the horse and took the luggage to the fold of the mountain. There, he crouched on the ground and refused to open his eyes or raise his head, his mouth incessantly calling on the name of Buddha and making vows. As he was wondering how Pilgrim was faring in his battle, and whether his master was dead or alive, the wind stopped, and the sky brightened again. He looked up and peered toward the entrance of the cave, but could neither see any movement of weapons, nor hear the sound of gongs and drums. Idiot dared not approach the cave, since there was no one else to guard the horse and the luggage. Deeply distressed, and not knowing what to do, he suddenly heard the great sage approaching from the west, grunting and snorting as he came. Bowing to meet his companion, he said, "Elder brother, what a mighty wind! Where did you come from?" With a wave of his hand, Pilgrim said, Formidable! Formidable! It's truly formidable! Since I, Old Monkey, was born, I have never witnessed such a violent wind. That old monster fought me with a steel trident, and we battled for over 30 rounds. It was then that I used the magic of the body beyond the body and had him surrounded. He panicked and called up this wind, which was ferocious indeed. Its force was so overwhelming that I had to suspend my operation and flee instead. Whew! What a wind! Whew! What a wind! Old Monkey also knows how to call up the wind and how to summon the rain, but it's hardly as vicious as the wind of this monster spirit. Elder brother, said 8 Rules, how is the martial technique of that monster? It's presentable, said Pilgrim, and he knows how to use the trident. He is, in fact, just about the equal of Old Monkey, but that wind of his is vicious, and that makes it difficult to defeat him. In that case, said 8 Rules, how are we going to rescue Master? Pilgrim said, we'll have to wait to rescue Master. I wonder if there's any eye doctor around who could take a look at my eyes. What's the matter with your eyes? Asked 8 Rules. Pilgrim replied, that monster blew a mouthful of wind on my face, and my eyes were so sorely blasted that they are now watering constantly. Elder brother, said Eight Rules, we are in the middle of a mountain, and it's getting late. Let's not talk about eye doctors. We don't even have a place to stay. It won't be difficult to find lodging, said Pilgrim. I doubt that the monster has the gall to harm our master. Let's find our way back to the main road and see whether we can stay with a family. After spending the night, we can return to subdue the monster tomorrow when it's light. Exactly, agreed Eight Rules. Leading the horse and carrying up the luggage, they left the fold of the mountain and went up the road. Dusk was setting in, and as they walked, they heard the sound of barking dogs toward the south of the mountain slope. Stopping to look, they saw a small cottage with flickering lamplights. Not bothering to look for a path, the two of them walked through the grass and arrived at the door of that household. They saw dark clumps of purplish fungi, grayish piles of white stones, dark clumps of purplish fungi with much green grass, grayish piles of white stones half grown with moss. Few specks of fireflies, their faint light aglow. A forest of wild woods stand in dense rows, orchids ever fragrant, bamboos newly planted. A clear stream flows a winding course. Old cedars lean over a deep cliff, a secluded place where no travelers come. Only only wild flowers bloom before the door. Not daring to enter without permission, they both cried out, "Open the door! Open the door!" An old man inside, flowers. I don't know where that came from. An old man inside appeared with several young farmers, all holding rakes, pitchforks, and brooms. Who are you? Who are you? They asked. With a bow, Pilgrim said, We are disciples of a holy monk from the great Tang in the land of the East. We were on our way to seek scriptures from the Buddha in the western heaven when we passed through this mountain, and our master was captured by the yellow-winged great king. We have yet to rescue him. Since it is getting late, we have come to ask for lodging for one night at your house. We beg you for this means of convenience. Returning the bow, the old man said, Pardon me for not coming to greet you. This is a place where clouds are more numerous than people, and when we heard you calling at the door just now, we were afraid that it might be someone like a wily fox, a tiger, or a bandit from the mountain. That's why my little ones might have offended you by their rather brusque manner. Please come in. Please come in. The two brothers led the horse and hauled the luggage inside. After tying up the animal and putting down the load, they exchanged greetings again with the old man of the cottage before taking their seats. An old manservant then came forward to present tea, after which several bowls of sesame seed rice were brought out. That sounds nice. After they had finished the rice, the old man asked for bedding to be laid out for them to sleep. Pilgrim said, We don't need to sleep just yet. May I ask the good man whether there is in your region someone who sells eye medicine? Which one of you elders has eye disease? Asked the old man. Pilgrim said, To tell you the truth, venerable sir, we who have left the family rarely become ill. In fact, I have never known any disease of the eye. If you are not suffering from an eye disease, said the old man, why do you want medicine? We were trying to rescue our master at the entrance of the Yellow-Wind Cave today, said Pilgrim. Unexpectedly, that monster blew a mouthful of wind at me, causing my eyes to hurt and smart. At the moment, I'm weeping constantly, and that's why I want to find eye medicine. My goodness, said the old man. A young priest like you, why do you lie? The wind of that great King Yellow Wind is most fearsome, not comparable with any spring-autumn wind, pine and bamboo wind, or the wind coming from the four quarters. I suppose, said Eight Rules, it must be brain-bursting wind, goat-ear wind, leprous wind, or migrainous wind. You're familiar with migrainous wind, unfortunately. No, said the old man. His is called the divine wind of Samadhi. What's it like? Asked Pilgrim. The old man said, That wind can blow to dim heaven and earth, and sadden both ghosts and gods. So savage it breaks rocks and stones. A man will die when he's blown. If you had encountered that wind of his, you think you would still be alive? Only if you are an immortal could you remain unharmed. Indeed, said Pilgrim, I may not be an immortal, for they belong to the younger generation as far as I'm concerned. But it will take some doing to finish me off. That wind, however, did cause my eyeballs to hurt and smart. If you can say that, said the old man, and I'm waggling my fingers like an old man would, you must be a person with some background. Our humble region has no one who sells eye medicine, but I myself suffer from watery eyes when the wind blows in my face, and I met an extraordinary person once who gave me a prescription. It's called the 3 Flowers and 9 Seeds Ointment, capable of curing all wind-induced eye maladies. Oh. When Pilgrim heard these words, he bowed his head and said humbly, I'm willing to ask you for some and try it on myself. The old man consented and went into the inner chamber. They're going to go on an eye drop quest, yes. He took out a little cornelian vase and pulled off the stopper, using a small jade pin to scoop out some ointment. He dabbed it onto Pilgrim's eyes, telling him to close his eyes and rest quietly, for he would be well by morning. After doing this, the old man took the vase and retired with his attendants. 8 Rules untied the bags, took out the bedding, and asked Pilgrim to lie down. As Pilgrim groped about confusedly with his eyes closed, 8 Rules laughed and said, Sir, where's your seeing-eye cane? You overstuffed idiot, said Pilgrim. You want to take care of me as a blind man? Giggling to himself, Idiot fell asleep, but Pilgrim sat on the mattress and did exercises to cultivate his magic power. Only after the 3rd watch did he sleep. Soon it was the 5th watch, and dawn was about to break. Wiping his face, Pilgrim opened his eyes, saying, It's really marvelous medicine. I can see 100 times better than before. All that wind accumulates, I guess. He then turned his head to look around. There were neither buildings nor halls, only some old locust trees and tall tall willows. The brothers were actually lying on a green grass meadow. Just then, 8 Rules began to stir, saying, Elder brother, why are you making all these noises? Open your eyes and take a look, said Pilgrim. Raising his head, Idiot discovered that the house had disappeared. Just then, he was so startled that he scrambled up at once, crying, Where's my horse? Excuse me. Isn't it over there, tied to a tree, said Pilgrim. And the luggage? Asked 8 Rules. Isn't it there by your head? Said Pilgrim. Oh, this family is rather shifty, said 8 Rules. If they have moved, why didn't they give us a call? If they had let Old Hog know about it, they might have received some farewell gifts of tea and fruits. Well, I suppose they must be trying to hide from something and are afraid that the county sheriff may get wind of it, so they moved out in the night. Good heavens! We must have been dead to the world. How could we not have heard anything when they dismantled the whole house? Idiot! Stop babbling, said Pilgrim. Okay, so he's chuckling. Idiot, stop babbling, said Pilgrim, chuckling. Take a look on that tree and see what kind of paper slip is there. 8 Rules took it down. It was a 4-line poem that read, This humble abode's no mortal abode, a cottage divided by the guardians of law, who gave the wondrous balm to heal your soul. Who gave the wondrous balm to heal your sore. Not hear your soul, all right? Heal your sore. Fret not, and do your best to quell the fiend. Pilgrim said, A bunch of roguish deities. Since we changed to the dragon horse, I have not taken a roll call of them. Now they're playing tricks on me instead. Elder brother, said 8 Rules, stop putting on such airs. How would they ever let you check them off the roll? Brother, said Pilgrim, you don't know about this. These 18 protectors of monasteries, the 6 gods of darkness and 6 gods of light, the guardians of 5 points, and the 4 sentinels, all have been ordered by the Bodhisattva to give secret protection to the master. The other day they reported their names to me, but since you have been with us, I have not made use of them. That's why I haven't made a roll call. Elder brother, said 8 Rules, if they were ordered to give secret protection to master, they had reason not to reveal themselves. That's why they had to devise this cottage here, and you shouldn't blame them. After all, they did put ointment on your eyes for you yesterday, and they did take care of us for one meal. You can say that they have done their duty. Don't blame them. Let's go and rescue Master. Brother, you are right, said Pilgrim. This place is not far from the Yellow Wind Cave. You had better stay here and look after the horse and luggage in the woods. Let Old Monkey go into the cave to make some inquiry after the condition of Master. Then we can do battle with the monster again. Exactly, said Eight Rules. You should find out whether Master is dead or alive. If he's dead, each one of us can tend to our own business. If he's not, we can do our best to discharge our responsibility. Pilgrim said, Stop talking nonsense. I'm off. With one leap, he arrived at the entrance of the cave and found the door still shut and the inhabitants sound asleep. Pilgrim neither made any noise nor disturbed the monsters. Making the magic sign and reciting the spell, he shook his body and changed at once into a spotted-leg mosquito. It was tiny and delicate, for which we have a testimonial poem. If the pilgrim... Yeah, the pilgrim is dead. We are out of here. I'm taking this headset off. A pesky small shape with sharp sting. His tiny voice can hum like thunder. Adept at piercing gauze nets and orchid rooms, he likes the warm, sultry climate. He fears incense and swatting fans, but dearly loves bright lights and lamps. Airy, agile, all too clever and fast, he flies into the fiend's cave. The little demon who was supposed to guard the door was lying there asleep, snoring. Pilgrim gave him a bite on his face, causing the little demon to roll over half awakened. "Oh, my father," he said, "what a big mosquito! One bite and I already have a big lump." He then opened his eyes and said, "Why, it's dawn!" Just then, the second door inside opened with a creak, and Pilgrim immediately flew in. The old monster was giving orders to all his subordinates to be especially careful in guarding the various entrances while they made ready their weapons. And there was a just then for you there. If the wind yesterday did not kill that pilgrim's son, he said, he will certainly come back today. When he comes, we'll finish him off. We'll finish him off. I'm trying to do a little menace there. Hearing this, Pilgrim flew past the main hall and arrived at the rear of the cave, where he found another door tightly shut. Crawling through a crack in the door, he discovered a large garden, in the middle of which, bound by ropes to a pole, was the Tang monk. That master was shedding tears profusely, constantly wondering where Wukong and Wu Neng were to be found. Pilgrim stopped his flight and alighted on his bald head, saying, "Master!" Recognizing his voice, the elder said, "Wukong, I nearly died thinking of you. Where are you calling from?" "Master," said Pilgrim, "I'm on your head. Calm yourself and stop worrying. We must first capture the monster before we can rescue you." Of course the scripture monk is blubbering. He's only got two, the stereotypical man has two moods. That would be fine and vexed. And not Pilgrim, but the Tang monk, the scripture pilgrim, he's got two moods. Blubbering and hopeless. "Disciple," said the Tang monk, "when will you be able to capture the monster?" "The tiger monster who took you," said Pilgrim, "has already been slain by 8 rules. But the wind of the old monster is a powerful weapon. I suspect we should be able to capture him today. Relax and stop crying. I'm leaving." Having said that, he flew at once to the front, where the old monster was seated aloft, making a roll call of all the commanders of his troops. A little demon suddenly appeared, waving the command flag. He dashed up to the hall, crying, "Great king! This little one was on patrol in the mountains when he ran into a monk with a long snout and huge ears, sitting in the woods not far from our entrance. If I hadn't run away quickly, he would have caught me. But I didn't see that hairy-faced monk who came here yesterday." "If Pilgrim's son is absent," said the old monster, "it may mean that he's been killed by the wind, or he may have gone to try to find help." Great king, said one of the demons, it would be our good fortune if he had been killed. But suppose he's not dead. If he succeeds in bringing with him some divine warriors, what shall we do then? The old monster said, Who's afraid of any divine warrior? Only the Bodhisattva Lingji can overcome the power of my wind. No one else can do us any harm. That pilgrim, resting on one of the beams above him, was delighted by this one statement. He flew out of the cave at once and, changing back into his original form, arrived at the woods. Brother, he cried. Eight Rules asked, Elder brother, where have you been? Just now a monster with a command flag came by and I chased him away. Thank you, said Pilgrim, laughing. Ho, 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 ho. Old Monkey changed into a mosquito to enter the cave to see how Master was doing. I found him tied to a post in the garden, weeping. After telling him not to cry, I flew around the roof to spy on them some more. That was when the fellow who held the command flag came in panting, saying that you had chased him. He also said that he had not seen me. The old monster made some wild speculations about my having been killed by the wind or else having gone to find help. Then, without being prompted, he suddenly mentioned someone else. It's marvelous, simply marvelous. Whom did he mention? Asked Eight Rules. He said that he wasn't afraid of any divine warrior, said Pilgrim, for no one else could overpower his wind save the Bodhisattva Lingji. The only trouble is that I don't know where this Lingji lives. That's another problem, though. As they were thus conversing, they suddenly saw an aged man walking by the side of the main road. Look at his appearance. Strong, he uses no cane to walk, with flowing snow-like hair and beard. Though wit and eyes are quite dim and blurry, thin bones and sinews are still tough. Back and head bent, he walked slowly, with thick brows and a pink face, childlike. Look at his features, and they seem human, though he's like Long Life Star no less. Highly pleased when he caught sight of him, Eight Rules said, Elder brother, the proverb says, you want to know the way? Hear what the tourists say. Why don't you approach him and ask? The great sage put away his iron rod and straightened out his clothes. Approaching the old man, he said, Aged sir, receive my bow. Somewhat reluctantly, the old man returned his greeting, saying, What region are you from, monk? What are you doing here in this wilderness? We are holy monks, on our way to seek scriptures, said Pilgrim. Yesterday we lost our master here, so I'm approaching you to ask where the Bodhisattva Lingji lives. Lingji lives south of here, said the old man, about 3,000 miles away. There is a mountain called the Little Sumeru Mountain, which has within it a land of the way, the Chan Hall, where the Bodhisattva lectures on sutras. I suppose you are trying to obtain scriptures from him. Not from him, said Pilgrim, but I have something that requires his attention. Will you please show me the way? Pointing with his hand toward the south, the old man said, Follow that winding path. The great sage son was tricked into turning his head to look at the path when the old man changed himself into a gentle breeze and vanished. A small slip of paper was left beside the road, on which was written this quatrain. To tell the equal to heaven great sage, the old man is in truth one long life Li. On Sumeru's the flying dragon staff, Lingji in years past received this Buddhist arm. Pilgrim took up the slip and went back down the road. Elder brother, said Eight Rules, our luck must have been rather bad lately. For 2 days we saw ghosts in broad daylight. Who is that old man who left after changing into a breeze? Pilgrim gave Eight Rules the slip of paper. Who is this Long Life Li? Asked Eight Rules when he had read the verse. It's the name of the planet Venus from the west, said Pilgrim. Eight Rules hurriedly bowed toward the sky, crying, Benefactor! Benefactor! Had it not been for the gold star, who personally begged the Jade Emperor to be merciful, I don't know what would have become of old Hog. Elder brother, said Pilgrim, you do have a sense of gratitude, but don't expose yourself. Take cover deep in the woods and carefully guard the luggage and the horse. Let Old Monkey find the Sumeru Mountain and seek help from the Bodhisattva. I know, said Eight Rules. Hurry up and go. Old Hog has mastered the law of the turtle. Withdraw your head. When you need it, stick it out. Oh. The great sage sun leaped into the air. Mounting the cloud somersault, he headed straight south. He was fast indeed. With a nod of his head, he covered 3,000 miles. Just a twist of his torso carried him over 800. In a moment, he saw a tall mountain with auspicious clouds hanging halfway up its slopes and holy mists gathered around it. In the fold of the mountain there was indeed a temple. He could hear the melodious sounds of the bells and the sonorous stones, and could see the swirling smoke of incense. Yeah, I agree with you there. Seems like these guys are mostly there for another like cameo from another bodhisattva. As he approached the door, the great sage saw a Taoist with a string of beads around his neck, who was reciting the name of Buddha. Pilgrim said, Taoist, please accept my bow. The Taoist at once bowed in return, saying, Where did the Venerable Father come from? Is this where the Bodhisattva Lingji expounds the scriptures? Asked Pilgrim. Indeed it is, said the Taoist. Do you wish to speak to someone? May I trouble you, sir, to make this announcement for me, said Pilgrim. I am the disciple of the Master of the Law, Tripitaka, who is the royal brother of the great Tang Emperor in the land of the East. I am the great sage, equal to heaven, Sun Wukong, also named Pilgrim. I have a matter that requires me to have an audience with the Bodhisattva. The Taoist laughed and said, The Venerable Father has given me a long announcement. I can't quite remember all those words. Just say that Sun Wukong, the disciple of the Tang monk, has arrived, said Pilgrim. The Taoist agreed and made that announcement in the lecture hall, whereupon the Bodhisattva at once put on his cassock and asked for more incense to be burned to welcome the visitor. Then the great sage walked in the door and peered inside. He saw a house full of a hall full of brocade and silk, a house most solemn and grand, pupils reciting the Lotus Sutra, an old leader tapping the golden gong. Set before the Buddha were all immortal fruits and flowers. Spread out on the altars were vegetarian dainties and viands. The bright, precious candles, their golden flames shot up like rainbows. The fragrant, true incense, its jade-like smoke flew up as colored mists. So it was that, after the lecture, one would calmly meditate. When white cloud flakes circled the tips of pines, the wisdom sword retired, for Mara snapped, in this space of Prajna Paramita. And I think of, like, do you remember that one episode where a French guy went to the Chinese restaurant and he had, like, those jade dumplings and things? I'm just imagining things like that. The Bodhisattva straightened out his attire to receive Pilgrim, who entered the hall and took the seat of the guest. Tea was offered, but Pilgrim said, No need for you to bother about tea. My master My master faces peril at the Yellow Wind Mountain, and I beseech and I beseech the Bodhisattva to exercise his great Dharma power to defeat the monster and rescue him. I did receive the command of Tathagata, said the Bodhisattva, to keep the Yellow Wind monster here in submission. Tathagata also gave me a wind-stopping pearl and a flying dragon precious staff. At the time when I captured him, I spared the monster his life only on condition that he would retire in the mountain and abstain from the sin of taking life. I did not know that he would want to harm your esteemed teacher and transgress the law. That is my fault. The Bodhisattva would have liked to prepare some vegetarian food to entertain Pilgrim, but Pilgrim insisted on leaving. So he took the flying dragon staff and mounted the clouds with the great sage. In a little while they reached the Yellow Wind Mountain. Great sage, said the Bodhisattva, this monster is rather afraid of me. I will stand here at the edge of the clouds while you go down there to provoke battle. Entice him to come out so that I may exercise my power. Pilgrim followed his suggestion and lowered his cloud. Without waiting for further announcement, he whipped out his iron rod and smashed the door of the cave, crying, "Monster! Give me back my master!" Those little demons standing guard at the door. That was hard to say. Those little demons standing guard at the door were so terrified that they ran to make the report. "This lawless ape," said the monster, "is truly ill-behaved. He would not defer to kindness, and now he has even broken my door. This time when I go out, I'm going to use that divine wind to blow him to death." He put on his armor as before and took up the steel trident. Walking out of the door and seeing Pilgrim, he did not utter a word before aiming the trident at Pilgrim's chest. The great sage stepped aside to dodge this blow and then faced him with uplifted rod. Before they had fought for a few rounds, the monster turned his head toward the ground in the southwest and was about to open his mouth to summon the wind. From midair, the Bodhisattva threw down the flying dragon precious staff as he recited some kind of spell. It was instantly transformed into a golden dragon with 8 claws, 2 of which caught hold of that monster's head and threw him 2 or 3 times against the boulders beside the mountain cliff. The monster changed back into his original form and became a mink with yellow fur. Oh. Pilgrim ran up and was about to strike with his rod, but he was stopped by the Bodhisattva, who said to him, "Great sage, do not harm him. I have to take him back to see Tathagata. Originally, he was a rodent at the foot of the Spirit Mountain who had acquired the way. Because he stole some of the pure oil in the crystal chalice, he fled for fear that the Vajra attendants would seize him. He's so cute." Tathagata thought that he was not guilty of death, and that is why I was asked to capture him in the first place and banish him to this region. But now he has offended the great sage and has attempted to harm the Tang monk. Therefore, I must take him to see Tathagata so that his guilt may be clearly established. Only then will this merit be completed. When Pilgrim heard this, he thanked the Bodhisattva, who left for the west, and we shall say no more of that. We now tell you about Zhu 8 Rules, who was thinking about Pilgrim in the woods when he heard someone calling down by the slope. "Brother Wu Neng, bring the horse and the luggage here." Recognizing Pilgrim's voice, Idiot quickly ran out of the woods and said to Pilgrim, "Elder brother, how did everything go?" "I invited the Bodhisattva Lingji to come here," said Pilgrim, "to use his flying dragon staff to capture the monster. He was a mink with yellow fur who became a spirit, and has now been taken by the Bodhisattva to Spirit Mountain to face Tathagata. Let's go into the cave to rescue Master." Idiot was delighted. The 2 of them smashed their way into the cave, and with their rake and rod, slaughtered all the wily hares, the vixen, the musk deer, and the horned deer. What? Let's kill them all. Then they went to the garden in the back to rescue their master, who, after coming out, asked, "How did you 2 manage to catch the monster so that you could rescue me?" Pilgrim gave a thorough account of how he went to seek the Bodhisattva's help to subdue the monster, and the master thanked him profusely. Then the 2 brothers found some vegetarian food in the cave, which they prepared along with some tea and rice. After eating, they left and again found the road to the west. Yeah, exactly that. They're just some deer. A couple bunnies. We do not know what took place hereafter. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. I just can't get over that. And then we just casually killed all the monsters here. 8 Rules. This is chapter 22. 8 Rules fights fiercely at the flowing sand river. Moksha, by orders, receives Wu Jing's submission. Now, we tell you about the Tang monk and his disciples, the 3 travelers who were delivered from their ordeal. In less than a day, they passed the Yellow Wind Mountain and proceeded toward the west through a vast level plain. Time went by swiftly, and summer yielded to the arrival of autumn. All they saw were some cold cicadas singing on dying willows, as the great fire rolls toward the west. As they proceeded, they came upon a huge and turbulent river, its waves surging and splashing. "Disciples," exclaimed Tripitaka, look at that vast expanse of water in front of us. Why are there no boats in sight? How can we get across?" Taking a close look, Eight Rules said, "It's very turbulent, too rough for any boat." Well, they got the Kasap back quite some time ago, actually. They did. They certainly did. Like, I think they wound up sacking the guy's, that other monster's cave or whatever. Pilgrim leaped into the air and peered into the distance, shading his eyes with his hand. Even he became somewhat frightened and said, "Master, it's truly hard. Truly hard." Oh, no. That was a different monster. Like I said, there was, so probably 2 readings ago, they stopped at a pilgrimage, whatever you call the place anyway. They stopped at a monastery. And it was an extremely elaborate monastery, very wealthy. And the monks were showing off all their fancy stuff, and then the monkey was like, "Hey, check the thing out we got. Look how amazing it is." And the monk was like, "No, don't show them that. Like, these guys are corrupt." And he showed them anyway. And it was, and they're all agog, and so they contrived a plot to steal it. And having stolen it, they their plot was to steal it. First of all, they're going to keep it overnight, I remember, and then burn down the hall where the monk and his attendants were sleeping. But the monkey came up with a plan to fireproof the building and then burn the rest of the place down. While all this was happening, there was a monster who was up in a cave who was friends with the monk and went, "Oh, yeah, man, what's going on? Maybe I can help. Oh, look at that thing. I'm going to keep the cassock and not help put out the fire." And he had like a beat-proof door. So like smacking the door down wasn't going to work. And Monkey did a bunch of clever tricks trying to sneak in. Like, he impersonated the now dead monk, but he sort of murdered his way to get there, so the trail of corpses was a giveaway. And I can't remember what else. Anyway, the monster wasn't fooled. Oh, right. And then they went back to Bodhisattva Guan Yi, who came with one of those headbands and snuck the headband on, and they basically distracted the monster, snuck the headband onto him, and turns out he was a bear. And Guan Yi was like, "You look great. You're going to be a bodyguard. Come with me." And then ran off with the bear. And Monkey sacked the rest of the place and found the cassock. There we go. Okay. "Master, it's truly hard. Truly hard. If old Monkey wishes to cross this river, he need only make one twist of his body and he will reach the other shore. But for you, Master, it's 1,000 times more difficult, for you can't traverse it even in 10,000 years. "I can't even see the other shore from here," said Tripitaka. "Really, how wide is it?" "It's just about 800 miles wide." "Yeah, I think you may have been effed there, Montress. Daylight savings kicks in for us tonight." Oh well. You didn't miss that much. Except for the yellow wind, and the monster was a mink. Ah. Well, maybe G can give you a recap a little bit. Or you can play this one back later. "It's just about 800 miles wide," said Pilgrim. "Elder brother," said Eight Rules, "how could you determine its width just like that?" "To tell you the truth, worthy brother," said Pilgrim, "these eyes of mine can determine good or evil up to 1,000 miles away in daylight." And yeah, so hello. "Just now, when I was up in the air, I could not tell how long the river was, but I could make out its width to be at least 800 miles. Sighing anxiously, the elder pulled back his horse and suddenly discovered on the shore a slab of stone. When the three of them drew closer to have a look, they saw 3 words written in seal script, Flowing Sand River, below which there were also 4 lines written in regular style. It read, These flowing sand meets, 800 wide, these weak waters, 3,000 deep. Goose feather cannot stay afloat, a rush petal will sink to the bottom. As master and disciples were reading the inscription, the waves in the river suddenly rose like tall mountains, and with a loud splash from the midst of the waters, a monster sprang out. Looking most savage and hideous, he had a head full of tousled and flame-like hair, a pair of bright round eyes which shone like lamps, an indigo face neither black nor green, an old dragon's voice like thunderclap or drum. He wore a cape of light yellow goose down, 2 strands of white reeds tied round his waist. Beneath his chin 9 skulls were strung and hung. His hands held an awesome priestly staff. Like a cyclone, the fiend rushed up to the shore and went straight for the Tang monk. Pilgrim was so taken aback that he grabbed his master and dashed for high ground to make the escape. Putting down the pole, 8 Rules whipped out his rake and brought it down hard on the monster. The fiend used his staff to parry the blow, and so the 2 of them began to unleash their power on the bank of the flowing sand river. This was some battle. The 9-pronged rake, the fiend-routing staff. These 2 met in battle on the river shore. This one was the Marshal of Heavenly Reeds. That one was the curtain-raising captain by the throne. In years past, they met in Divine Mist's hall. Today they fought and waged a test of strength. From this one the rake went out like a dragon stretching its claws. From that one the staff blocked the way like a sharp-tusked elephant. They stood with their limbs outstretched. Each struck at the other's rib cage. This one raked madly, heedless of head or face. That one struck wildly, without pause or rest. This one was a cannibal spirit, long a lord of flowing sand. That one was a way-seeking fighter, upholding law and faith. Deus Ex assembly line. Seriously. Incidentally, basically, Monkey managed to sneak in as a mosquito, stinging little guys along the way, too. And then, as he's just floating around, the evil overlord gave away his secret weakness. Ha ha ha! Nobody can beat me except for this one guy! And Monkey's like, aha, let's go find that one guy. And then they found that one guy. And then that guy beat up the monster, basically. Closing in again and again, the 2 of them fought for 20 rounds, but neither emerged the victor. The great sage, meanwhile, was standing there to protect the Tang monk. As he held the horse and guarded the luggage, he became so aroused by this. All right. He became so aroused by the sight of 8 Rules engaging that fiend that he ground his teeth and rubbed his hands vehemently. Finally, he could not restrain himself. Whipping out the rod, he said, "Master, sit here and don't be afraid. Let old Monkey go and play with him a little." The master begged in vain for him to stay, and with a loud whoop, he leaped forward. The monster, you see, was just having a grand time fighting with 8 Rules, the 2 of them so tightly locked in combat that nothing seemed able to part them. Pilgrim, however, rushed up to the monster and delivered a terrific blow at its head with his iron rod. The monster was so shaken that he jumped aside. Turning around, he dove straight into the flowing sand river and disappeared. 8 Rules was so upset that he leaped about wildly, crying, "Elder brother, who asked you to come? The monster was gradually weakening and was finding it difficult to parry my rake. Another 4 or 5 rounds, and I would have captured him. But when he saw how fierce you were, he fled in defeat. Now what shall we do?" "Brother," said Pilgrim, laughing, whipping out his rod, "to tell you the truth, since defeating the yellow-wind fiend a month ago, I have not played with my rod all this time after leaving the mountain. And yes, I'm 6 years old. When I saw how delicious your fight with him was, I couldn't stand the itch beneath my feet. That's why I jumped up here to have some fun with him. That monster doesn't know how to play, and I suppose that's the reason for his departure." Holding hands and teasing each other, the two of them returned to the Tang monk. "Did you catch the monster?" asked the Tang monk. "He didn't last out the fight," said Pilgrim, and he scrambled back to the water in defeat. "Disciples," said Tripitaka, "since this monster has probably lived here a long time, he ought to know the deep and the shallow parts of the river. After all, such a boundless body of weak water, and not a boat in sight. We need someone who is familiar with the region to lead us across." "Exactly," said Pilgrim, "as the proverb says, 'He who's near cinnabar turns red. He who's near ink becomes black.' And let's not hear about your itchy rod. The monster living here must have a good knowledge of the water. When we catch him, we should not slay him, but just make him take the master across the river before we dispose of him." "Elder brother," said Eight Rules, "no need for further delay. You go ahead and catch him while old Hog guards our master." "Worthy brother," said Pilgrim with a laugh, "in this case, I've really nothing to brag about, for I'm just not comfortable doing business in water. If all I do is walk around down there, I still have to make the magic sign and recite the water-repelling spell before I can move anywhere. Or else I have to change into a water creature like a fish or a shrimp or crab or turtle before going in. If it were a matter of matching wits in the high mountains or up in the clouds, I know enough to deal with the strangest and most difficult situation. But doing business in water somewhat cramps my style." "When I was marshal of the Heavenly River in former years," said Eight Rules, "I commanded a naval force of 80,000 men." We shouldn't slay him just immediately, but we will kill him. Just not yet. Just hang on to that. "And I acquired some knowledge of that element, but I fear that that monster may have a few relatives down there in his den, and I won't be able to withstand him if his 7th and 8th cousins all come out. What will happen to me, then, if they grab me?" "If you go into the water to fight him," said Pilgrim, "don't tarry. Make sure, in fact, that you feign defeat and entice him out here. Then Old Monkey will help you." DM be all like, "No. You're going to find the quest." "Right you are," said Eight Rules. "I'm off." He took off his blue silk shirt and his shoes. Holding the rake with both hands, he divided the waters to make a path for himself. Using the ability he had developed in bygone years, he leaped through billows and waves and headed for the bottom of the river. We now tell you about that monster, who went back to his home in defeat. He had barely caught his breath when he heard someone pushing water, and as he rose to take a look, he saw Eight Rules pushing his way through with his rake. That monster lifted his staff and met him face to face, crying, "Monk, watch where you are going, or you'll receive a blow from this." Using the rake to block the blow, Eight Rules said, "What sort of a monster are you that you dare to bar our way?" "So you don't recognize me," said the monster. "I'm no demon or fiend, nor do I lack a name or surname." "If you are no demon or fiend," said Eight Rules, "why do you stay here and take human lives? Tell me your name and surname, and I'll spare your life." The monster said, "My spirit was strong since the time of birth. I once made a tour of the universe, where my fame as a hero became well known, a gallant type for all to emulate. Through countless nations I went as I pleased. Over lakes and seas I did freely roam. To learn the way I strayed to heaven's edge. To find a teacher I stumped this great earth. For years my clothes and alms bowl went with me. Not for one day did my spirit turn lax. For scores of times I cruised cloud-like the earth, and walked to all places 100 times. Only then a true immortal I did meet, who showed me the great path of golden light. I took back baby boy and fair girl first, then released woodmother and squire of gold. Bright hall's kidney brine flooded floral pool. The tower's liver fire plunged to the heart. 3,000 merits done, I saw heaven's face, and solemnly worshipped the point of light. Then the Jade Emperor exalted me. The curtain-raising captain he made me. An honored one in South Heaven Gate, I was much esteemed at Divine Mist's Hall. More kidney brine, G. More kidney brine. I hung at my waist the tiger-headed shield. I held in my hands the fiend-routing staff. Just like the sunlight, my gold helmet shone. My body's armor flashed like radiant mists. I was chief of the guardians of the throne. I was first as attendant of the court. When Queen Mother gave the festival of Peach, she served her guests at Jasper Pool a feast. I dropped and broke a glass-like cup of jade, and souls from all the hosts of heaven fled. Jade Emperor grew mightily enraged. Hands clasped, he faced his council on the left. Stripped of my hat, my armor, and my rank, I had my whole body pushed to the block. Only the great immortal, naked feet, came from the ranks and begged to have me freed. Pardoned from death, and with my sentence stayed, I was sent to the shores of flowing sand. Sated, I lie wearily in the stream. Famished, I churn the waves to find my feed. The woodsman sees me, and his life is gone. The fishers face me, and they soon perish. From first to last, I've eaten many men. Over and over I took human lives. Since you dare to work violence at my door, my stomach this day has its fondest hopes. Don't say you're too coarse to be eaten now. I'll catch you. And look, that's my minced meat sauce. Yeah, but they're like poors, so nobody cares. Infuriated by what he heard, 8 Rules shouted, "You brazen thing! You haven't the slightest perception. Old Hog is tempting enough to make people's mouths water, and you dare say that I'm coarse, that I'm to be chopped up for a chopped meat sauce? Come to think of it, you would like to consider me a piece of tough old bacon. Watch your manners, and swallow this rake of your ancestor." When the monster saw the rake coming, he used the style of the phoenix nodding its head to dodge the blow. The two of them thus fought to the surface of the water, each one treading the waters in waves. This conflict was somewhat different from the one before. Look at the curtain-raising captain, the marshal of heavenly reeds, each showing most nicely his magic might. This one waved above his head the fiend-routing staff. That one moved the rake as swiftly as his hand. The vaulting waves rocked hills and streams. The surging tide the cosmos dimmed, savage like Jupiter, wielding banners and flags, fierce like hell's envoy, upsetting sacred tops. This one guarded the Tang monk devotedly. That one, a water fiend, perpetrated his crimes. The rake's one stroke would leave 9 red marks. The staff's one blow would dissolve man's soul. They strove to win the fight. They struggled to prevail. All in all, for the scripture pilgrim's sake, they vented their fury without restraint. They brawled till carps and perches lost their newborn scales, and all the turtles damaged their tender shells. Red shrimps and purple crabs all lost their lives, and sundry water gods all upward bowed. You heard only the waves rolled and crashed like thunderclaps. The world amazed saw sun and moon grow dark. The two of them fought for 2 hours, and neither prevailed. It was like a brass pan meeting an iron broom, a jade gong facing a golden bell. We now tell you about the great sage, who was standing guard beside the Tang monk. With bulging eyes he watched them fighting on the water, but he dared not lift his hands. Finally, 8 Rules made a half-hearted blow with his rake and, feigning defeat, turned to flee toward the eastern shore. It's okay to kill as a Buddhist. It's not okay to eat them, clearly. I guess you shouldn't kill bandits, but even then. The monster gave chase and was about to reach the riverbank when our pilgrim could no longer restrain himself. He abandoned his master, whipped out the iron rod, leaped to the riverside, and struck at the monster's head. Fearing to face him, the monster swiftly dove back into the water. "You ban-horse plague!" shouted Eight Rules. "You impulsive ape! Can't you be a bit more patient? You could have waited till I led him up to high ground and then blocked his path to the river. We would have caught him then. Now he has gone back in, and when do you think he'll come out again?" "Idiot," said Pilgrim, laughing. "Ho, ho, ho. Stop shouting. Let's go talk to Master first." Eight Rules went with Pilgrim back to high ground to Tripitaka. "Disciple," said Tripitaka, bowing, "you must be tired." "I won't complain about my fatigue," said Eight Rules. "Let's subdue the monster and take you across the river. Only that plan is perfect." Tripitaka said, "How did the battle go with the monster just now?" "He was just about my equal," said Eight Rules, "and we fought to a draw. But then I feigned defeat, and he chased me up to the bank. When he saw Elder Brother lifting his rod, however, he fled." "So what are we going to do?" asked Tripitaka. "Master, relax," said Pilgrim. "Let's not worry now, for it's getting late. You sit here on the cliff and let Old Monkey go beg some vegetarian food. Take some rest after you eat, and we'll find a solution tomorrow." "You are right," said Eight Rules. "Go and come back quickly." Pilgrim swiftly mounted the clouds and went north to beg a bowl of vegetarian food from a family to present to his master. When the master saw him return so soon, he said, "Wukong, let us go to that household which gave us the food and ask them how we may cross this river. Isn't this better than fighting the monster?" With a laugh, Pilgrim said, "That household is quite far from here, about 6,000 or 7,000 miles, no less. How could the people there know about the water? What's the use of asking them?" "You are fibbing again, Elder Brother," said Eight Rules. 6,000 or 7,000 miles? How could you cover that distance so quickly?" "You have no idea," said Pilgrim, "about the capacity of my cloud somersault, which with one leap can cover 108,000 miles. For the 6,000 or 7,000 here, all I have to do is nod my head and stretch my waist. And that's a round trip already. What's so hard about that?" "Elder Brother," said Eight Rules, "if it's so easy, all you need to do is carry Master on your back, nod your head, stretch your waist, and jump across. Why continue to fight this monster?" "Don't you know how to ride the clouds?" asked Pilgrim. "Can't you carry him across the river?" "The mortal nature and worldly bones of Master are as heavy as the Tai Mountain." "Yeah, but he's a monk, so he's supposed to beg or something. I don't understand how that part works. But he could just go back to Monkey Town, just go, 'Hey, give us some nice stuff.'" Eight Rules said, "How could my cloud soaring bear him up? It has to be your cloud somersault." "My cloud somersault is essentially like cloud soaring," said Pilgrim. "The only difference being that I can cover great distances more rapidly. If you can't carry him, what makes you think I can? There's an old proverb that says, 'Move Mount Tai, it's light as mustard seeds. Lift a man and you won't leave the red dust.' Take this monster here. He can use spells and call upon the wind, pushing and pulling a little, but he can't carry a human into the air. And if it's this kind of magic, Old Monkey knows every trick well, including becoming invisible and making distances shorter. But it is required of Master to go through all these strange territories before he finds deliverance from the Sea of Sorrows. Hence, even one step turns out to be difficult. You and I are only his protective companions, guarding his body and life, but we cannot exempt him from these woes, nor could we obtain the scripture all by ourselves. Even if we had the ability to go and see Buddha first, he would not bestow the scriptures on you and me. Remember the adage, what's easily gotten is soon forgotten." You're probably right, Montrose, but that doesn't quite make the same story. And and then they delivered the monk, and the monk got the scriptures, and the world was made better. Hooray! The gods are dicks, and they want us to suffer. When Idiot heard these words, he accepted them amiably as instruction. Master and disciples ate some of the simply prepared vegetarian food before resting on the eastern shore of the flowing sand river. this point, the storyteller felt the need to stop and explain away the plot holes that the audience kept bringing up. The next morning, Tripitaka said, "Wukong, what are we going to do today?" "Not much," said Pilgrim, "except that 8 rules must go into the water again." "Elder brother," said 8 rules, "you only want to stay clean, but you have no hesitation making me go into the water." "Worthy brother," said Pilgrim, "this time I'll try not to be impulsive. I'll let you trick him into coming up here, and then I'll block his retreat along the riverbank. We must capture him." "Dear 8 rules." Wiping his face, he pulled himself together. Holding the rake in both hands, he walked to the edge of the river, opened up a path in the water, and went to the monster's home as before. The monster had just wakened from his sleep when he heard the sound of water. Turning quickly to look, he saw 8 rules approaching with the rake. He leaped out at once and barred the way, shouting, "Slow down! Watch out for my staff!" 8 rules lifted his rake to parry the blow, saying, "What sort of morning staff do you have there that you dare ask your ancestor to watch out for it?" "A fellow like you," said the monster, "wouldn't recognize this. For years, my staff has enjoyed great fame. At first an evergreen tree in the moon, Wu Gang cut down from it one huge limb. Lu Ban then made it, using all his skills. Within the hub's one solid piece of gold. Outside, it's wrapped by countless pearly threads. It's called the treasure staff for crushing fiends, ever placed in divine mists to quell the ogres. Since I had made a mighty general's rank, Jade Emperor put it always by my side. It lengthens or shortens after my desire. It grows thick or thin with my command. It went to guard the throne at the Peaches Feast. It served at court in heaven's world above. On duty it saw the many sages bowed, and immortals too, when the screen rolled up. Of numinous power, one-armed divine. It's no worldly weapon of humankind. Since I was banished from the gate of heaven, it roamed with me at will beyond the seas. Perhaps it is not right for me to boast, but swords and spears of man can't match this staff. Look at that old rusted muckrake of yours, fit only for hoeing fields and raking herbs. It is kind of suggestive with those staffs, isn't it? "You unchastened brazen thing," said 8 rules, laughing. "Never mind whether it's fit for hoeing fields. One little touch, and you won't even know how to begin putting bandages or ointment on 9 bleeding holes. Even if you are not killed, you will grow old with chronic infection." The monster raised his hands and again fought with 8 rules from the bottom of the river up to the surface of the water. This battle was even more different from the first one. Look at them. Wielding the treasure staff, striking with muckrake, they would not speak, as if they were estranged. Since Woodmother constrained the spatula, that caused the two to fight most fiercely. No win or loss, with no regret. They churned up waves and billows with no peace. How could this one control his bitter rage? That one found unbearable his pain. Rake and staff went back and forth to show their might. The water rotted like poison in flowing sand. They huffed and puffed. They worked and toiled. All because Tripitaka would face the west. The muckrake, so ferocious. The staff, so nimbly used. This one made a grab to pull him up the shore. That one sought to seize and drown him in the stream. They roared like thunder, stirring dragon and fish. Gods and ghosts cowered as the heavens grew dim. This time, they fought back and forth for 30 rounds, and neither one proved to be the stronger. Again 8 rules pretended to be defeated and fled, dragging his rake. Kicking up the waves, the monster gave chase, and they reached the edge of the river. "Wretch!" cried 8 rules. "Come up here! We can fight better on solid ground up here." "You're just trying to trick me into going up there," scolded the monster, "so that you can bring out your assistant. You come down here, and we can fight in the water." It is the monkey's fault, though. The monster, you see, had become wise. He refused to go up to the bank and remained near the edge of the water to argue with 8 rules. When Pilgrim saw that the monster refused to leave the water, he became highly irritated, and all he could think of was to catch him at once. "Master," he said, "you sit here. Let me give him a taste of the ravenous eagle seizing his prey." He somersaulted into the air and then swooped down onto the monster, who was still bickering with 8 Rules. When he heard the sound of the wind, he turned quickly and discovered Pilgrim hurtling down from the clouds. Putting away his staff, he dove into the water and disappeared. Pilgrim stood on the shore and said to 8 Rules, "Brother, that monster is catching on. He refuses to come up now. What shall we do?" "It's hard, terribly hard," said 8 Rules. "I just can't beat him, even when I summoned up the strength of my milk-drinking days. We are evenly matched." "Let's go talk to Master," said Pilgrim. The two of them went up again to high ground and told the Tang monk everything. "If it's so difficult," said the elder, tears welling up in his eyes, "how can we ever get across?" "Master, please don't worry. Well, it's also because Monkey's getting all the fights, so we need to let the other guy have some too." "Master, please don't worry," said Pilgrim. "It is hard for us to cross with this monster hiding deep in the river. So don't fight with him anymore, 8 Rules. Just stay here and protect Master. I'm going to make a trip up to South Sea." "Elder brother," said 8 Rules, "what do you want to do at South Sea?" Pilgrim said, "This business of seeking scriptures originated from the Bodhisattva Guan Yin. The one who delivered us from our ordeals was also the Bodhisattva Guan Yin. Today, our path is blocked at this flowing sand river and we can't proceed. Without her, how can we ever solve our problem? Let me go ask her to help us. It's much better than doing battle with this monster." "You have a point there, elder brother," said 8 Rules. "When you get there, please convey my gratitude to her for her kindly instructions in the past." "I don't want to get wet." "Wukong," said Tripitaka, "if you want to go see the Bodhisattva, you needn't delay. Go and hurry back." Pilgrim catapulted into the air with his cloud somersault and headed for the South Sea. It did not even take him half an hour before he saw the scenery of the Potalaka mountain. In a moment, he dropped down from his somersault and arrived at the edge of the purple bamboo grove, where he was met by the spirits of the 24 Ways. They said to him, "Great sage, what brings you here?" "I'm busy." "My master faces an ordeal," said Pilgrim, "which brings me here specially to see the Bodhisattva." "Please take a seat," said the spirits, "and allow us to make the announcement." One of the spirits who was on duty went to the entrance of the Tidal Sound Cave, announcing, "Sun Wukong wishes to have an audience with you." To which the Bodhisattva said, "Tell him to leave, I'm busy." The Bodhisattva was leaning on the rails by the treasure lotus pool, looking at the flowers with the pearl-bearing dragon princess. When she heard the announcement, she went back to the cave, opened the door, and asked that he be shown in. With great solemnity, the great sage prostrated himself before her. "Why are you not accompanying the Tang monk?" asked the Bodhisattva. "For what reason did you want to see me again?" "Bodhisattva," said Pilgrim, looking up at her, "my master took another disciple at the Gao village, to whom you had given the religious name of Wu Neng. After crossing the Yellow Wind Ridge, we have now arrived at the flowing sand river 800 miles wide, a body of weak water, which is quite difficult for master to get across. There is, moreover, a monster in the river who is quite accomplished in the martial arts. We are grateful to Wu Neng, who fought in the water with him 3 times but could not beat him. The monster is, in fact, blocking our path, and we cannot get across. That is why I have come to see you, hoping that you will take pity and grant us deliverance." Bodhisattvas are like, "Can't you just solve this problem yourself? Use some wits." "Monkey," said the Bodhisattva, "are you still acting so smug and self-sufficient that you refuse to disclose the fact that you are in the service of the Tang monk?" "All we had intended to do," said Pilgrim, "was to catch the monster and make him take master across the river. I am not too good at doing business in the water, so Wu Neng went down alone to his lair to look for him, and they had some conversation. I presume the matter of scripture seeking was not mentioned." That monster in the flowing sand river, said the Bodhisattva, happens to be the incarnate curtain-raising captain, who was also brought into the faith by my persuasion when I told him to accompany those on their way to acquire scriptures. Had you been willing to mention that you were a scripture pilgrim from the land of the East, he would not have fought you. He would have yielded instead. Pilgrim said, That monster is afraid to fight now, for some reason. He refuses to come up to the shore and is hiding deep in the water. How can we bring him to submission? How can my master get across this body of weak water? Persuasion. And then more persuasion. Jeez. The Bodhisattva immediately called for Huiyan. Taking a little red gourd from her sleeves, she handed it over to him, saying, Take this gourd and go with Sun Wukong to the flowing sand river. Call Wu Jing, and he'll come out at once. You must first take him to submit to the Tang monk. Next, string together those 9 skulls of his and arrange them according to the position of the 9 palaces. Put this gourd in the center, and you will have a Dharma vessel ready to ferry the Tang monk across the boundary formed by the flowing sand river. Obeying the instructions of his master, Huiyan left the Tidal Sound Cave with the great sage carrying the gourd. As they departed the purple bamboo grove in compliance with the holy command, we have a testimonial poem. The 5 phases, well matched as heaven's truth. His former master he can recognize. Refine the self as base for wondrous use. Good and bad discerned will reveal the cause. Metal returns to nature. The same kind are both. Wood begs for favor. They'll all be redeemed. 2 earths completes merit to reach the void. Water and fire blended, dustless and clean. In a little while the 2 of them lowered their clouds and arrived at the flowing sand river. Recognizing the disciple Moksha, Zhu 8 Rules led his master to receive him. After bowing to Tripitaka, Moksha then greeted 8 Rules, who said, I was grateful to be instructed by your reverence so that I could meet the Bodhisattva. I have indeed obeyed the law, and I am happy recently to have entered the gate of Buddhism. Since we have been constantly on the road, I have yet to thank you. Please forgive me. Let's forget about these fancy conversations, said Pilgrim. We must go and call that fellow. Call whom? Asked Tripitaka. Monkey-hating water. Not time is wasted. Padding the story even more. Please tip generously. Remember to like and subscribe. Call whom? Asked Tripitaka. Pilgrim replied, Old Monkey saw the Bodhisattva and gave her an account of what happened. The Bodhisattva told me that this monster in the flowing sand river happened to be the incarnation of the curtain-raising captain. Because he had sinned in heaven, he was banished to this river and became a monster. But he was converted by the Bodhisattva, who had told him to accompany you to the western heaven. Since we did not mention the matter of seeking scriptures, he fought us bitterly. Now the Bodhisattva has sent Moksha with this gourd, which that fellow will turn into a Dharma vessel to take you across the river. When Tripitaka heard these words, he bowed repeatedly to Moksha, saying, I beseech your reverence to act quickly. Holding the gourd and treading half on cloud and half on fog, Moksha moved directly above the surface of the flowing sand river. He cried with a loud voice, Wu Jing! Wu Jing! The scripture pilgrim has been here for a long time. Why have you not submitted? We now tell you about the monster who, fearful of the Monkey King, had gone back to the bottom of the river to rest in his den. When he heard someone call him by his religious name, he knew that it had to be the Bodhisattva Guanyin, and when he heard, moreover, that the scripture pilgrim had arrived, he no longer feared the axe or the halberd. Swiftly he leaped out of the waves and saw that it was the disciple Moksha. Look at him! All smiles, he went forward and bowed, saying, Your reverence, forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Where is the Bodhisattva? My teacher did not come, said Moksha, but she sent me to tell you to become the disciple of the Tang monk without delay. You are to take the skulls around your neck and this gourd, and to fashion them a Dharma vessel according to the position of the 9 palaces so that he may be taken across this body of weak water." "Where is the scripture pilgrim?" asked Wu Jing. Pointing with his finger, Moksha said, "Isn't he the one sitting on the eastern shore?" Wu Jing caught sight of 8 Rules and said, "I don't know where that lawless creature came from. He fought with me for 2 whole days, never once saying a word about seeking scriptures." When he saw Pilgrim, he said, "That customer is his assistant, and a formidable one, too. I'm not going over there." "That is Zhu 8 Rules," said Moksha, "and that other one is Pilgrim's son, both disciples of the Tang monk, and both converted by the Bodhisattva. Why fear them? I'll escort you to the Tang monk." Only then did Wu Jing put away his precious staff and straighten his yellow silk shirt. He jumped ashore and knelt before Tripitaka, saying, "Master, your disciple has eyes but no pupils, and he failed to recognize your noble features. I have greatly offended you, and I beg you to pardon me." "You bum!" I love that. Said 8 Rules. "Why did you not submit in the first place? Why did you only want to fight with me? What do you have to say for yourself?" "Brother," said Pilgrim, laughing, "don't berate him. It's really our fault for not mentioning that we were seeking scriptures, and we didn't tell him our names." "Are you truly willing to embrace our faith?" said the elder. "Your disciple was converted by the Bodhisattva," said Wu Jing. "Deriving my surname from the river, she gave me the religious name Sha Wu Jing. How could I be unwilling to take you as my master?" "In that case," said Tripitaka, "Wukong may bring over the sacred razor and shave off his hair." Yeah, that's my interpretation mantra. That seems pretty cutting. It's eyes without seeing. The great sage indeed took the razor and shaved Wu Jing's head, after which he came again to pay homage to Tripitaka, Pilgrim, and 8 Rules, thus becoming the youngest disciple of the Tang monk. When Tripitaka saw that he comported himself very much like a monk, he gave him the nickname of Sha Monk. "Since you have embraced the faith," said Moksha, "there's no need for further delay. You must build the Dharma vessel at once." Not daring to delay, Wu Jing took off the skulls around his neck and strung them up with a rope after the design of the 9 palaces, placing the gourd in the middle. He then asked his master to leave the shore, and our elder thus embarked on the Dharma vessel. As he sat in the center, he found it to be as sturdy as a little boat. He was, moreover, supported by 8 Rules on his left and Wu Jing on his right, while Pilgrim's son, leading the dragon horse, followed in the rear, treading half on cloud and half on fog. Above their heads, Moksha also took up his post to give them added protection. In this way, our master of the law was safely ferried across the boundary of the flowing sand river. With the wind calm and waves quiet, he crossed the weak water. It was truly as fast as flying or riding an arrow, for in a little while, he reached the other shore. Wow, I'm losing track where I am here. For in a little while he reached the other shore, having been delivered from the mighty waves. He did not drag up mud or water, and happily both his hands and feet remained dry. In sum, he was pure and clean without engaging in any activity. When master and disciples reached solid ground again, Moksha descended from the auspicious clouds. As he took back his gourd, the 9 skulls changed into 9 curls of dark wind and vanished. Tripitaka bowed to thank Moksha, and also gave thanks to the Bodhisattva. So it was that Moksha went straight back to the South Sea, while Tripitaka mounted his horse to go to the west. We do not know how long it took them to achieve the right fruits of scripture acquisition. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. And I'm actually going to do another one. This is just me flipping off time saving zones, or however you pronounce that. Whatever that is. That time business is really annoying. Chapter 23. Actually, since you mentioned that mantra, there's probably 2 blocks of where we live. Somebody's actually made like life-size statues of the 3 monks, and at least of the 3 monks. for the journey to the west, and I keep meaning to take a picture and using it as my title page for these readings, and I keep forgetting to do that. Time zones. Time zones not yay, but let's persist. Tripitaka does not forget his origin. The four sages test the priestly mind. A long journey westward is his decree, as frosted blooms fall in autumn's mild breeze. Tie up the sly ape, don't loosen the ropes. Hold back the mean horse and don't use the whip. Wood Mother was once fused with Metal Squire. Yellow Dame and Naked Sun never did differ. Bite open the iron ball, there's mystery true. Perfection of wisdom will come to you. There's some idioms in there that I don't fully understand. The principal aim of this chapter, pardon me again, is to make clear that the way to acquire scriptures is no different from the way of attending to the fundamentals in one's life. We now tell you about Master and disciples, the four of them who, having awakened to the suchness of all things, broke free from the fetters of dust. Leaping clear from the sea of nature's flowing sand, they were completely rid of any hindrance and proceeded westward on the main road. They passed through countless green hills and blue waters. They saw wild grass and untended flowers in endless arrays. Time was swift indeed, and soon it was autumn again. You see, maple leaves redden the mountain, yellow blooms endure the night wind, old cicada's song turns languid, sad crickets ever voice their plaint, cracked lotus leaves like green silk fans, fragrant oranges like gold balls, lovely these rows of wild geese, in dots they spread to distant sky. Yeah, it's just, the horse is just there, isn't he? As they journeyed, it was getting late again. Disciples, said Tripitaka, it's getting late. Where shall we go to spend the night? Master, said Pilgrim, what you said is not quite right. Those who have left home dine on the winds and rest beside the waters. They sleep beneath the moon and lie on the frost. In short, any place can be their home. Why ask where we should spend the night? Elder brother, said Zoo 8 Rules, all you seem to care about is making progress on the journey, and you've no concern for the burdens of others. Since crossing the flowing sand river, we have been doing nothing but scaling mountains and peaks, and hauling this heavy load is becoming rather hard on me. Wouldn't it be much more reasonable to look for a house where we can ask for some tea and rice and try to regain our strength? Idiot, said Pilgrim, your words sound as if you begrudge this whole enterprise. If you think that you are still back in the Gao village where you can enjoy the comfort that comes to you without exerting yourself, then you won't make it. If you have truly embraced the faith of Buddhism, you must be willing to endure pain and suffering. Only then will you be a true disciple. Maybe Monkey should be carrying some of that stuff, though. Elder brother, said 8 Rules, how heavy do you think this load of luggage is? Pilgrim said, Brother, since you and Sha Monk joined us, I haven't had a chance to pull it. How would I know its weight? Ah, elder brother, said 8 Rules, just count the things here. 4 yellow rattan mats, long and short, 8 ropes in all, to guard against dampness and rain. There are blankets, 4 layers. The flat poles too slippery, perhaps? You had nails on nails at both ends. Cast in iron and copper, the 9-ringed priestly staff, made of bamboo and rattan, the long, large cloak. With all this luggage, you should pity old Hog, who has to walk all day carrying it. You only are the disciple of our master. I've been made into a long-term laborer. Idiot, said Pilgrim with a laugh. To whom are you protesting? To you, elder brother, said 8 Rules. If you're protesting to me, said Pilgrim, you've made a mistake. Old Monkey is solely concerned with master's safety, whereas you and Sha Monk have the special responsibility of looking after the luggage and the horse. If you ever slack off, you'll get a good whipping in the shanks from this huge rod. I've never had brothers who couldn't speak to that. Elder brother, said 8 Rules, don't mention whipping, for that only means taking advantage of others by brute force. I realize that you have a proud and haughty nature, and you are not about to pull the luggage. But look how fat and strong the horse is that the master is riding. He's only carrying one old monk. Make him take a few pieces of luggage for the sake of fraternal sentiment." "So you think he's a horse," said Pilgrim. "He's no earthly horse, for he's originally the son of Aurun, the dragon king of the Western Ocean, because he set fire to the palace and destroyed some of its pearls. His father charged him with disobedience, and he was condemned by heaven. He was fortunate to have the Bodhisattva Guanyin save his life, and he was placed in the Eagle Grief Stream to await Master's arrival." Yeah, there's at least that, right? At the appropriate time, the Bodhisattva also appeared personally to take off his scales and horns and to remove the pearls around his neck. It was then that he changed into this horse to carry Master to worship Buddha in the Western Heaven. This is a matter of achieving merit for each one of us individually, and you shouldn't bother him. When Shao Monk heard these words, he asked, "Elder brother, is he really a dragon?" "Yes," replied Pilgrim. Eight Rules said, "Elder brother, I have heard an ancient saying that a dragon can breathe out clouds and mists, kick up dust and dirt, and he even has the ability to leap over mountains and peaks, the divine power to stir up rivers and seas. How is it that he is walking so slowly at the moment?" "You want him to move swiftly?" said Pilgrim. "I'll make him do that. Look! Dear great sage!" He shook his golden-hooped rod once, and there were 10,000 shafts of colorful lights. When that horse saw the rod, he was so afraid that he might be struck by it that he moved his forelegs like lightning and darted away. As his hands were weak, the master could not restrain the horse from this display of its mean nature. The horse ran all the way up a mountain cliff before slowing down to a trot. The master finally caught his breath, and that was when he discovered in the distance several stately buildings beneath some pine trees. He saw doors draped by hanging cedars. Good job, monkey. Houses beside a green hill, pine trees fresh and straight, and some poles of mottled bamboo. By the fence, wild chrysanthemums glowed with the frost. By the bridge, orchid reflections red in the stream, walls of white plaster, and fences brick-laid. Well, he's not a dragon anymore, it's a horse. Of course. A great hall, how noble and august. A tall house, so peaceful and clean. No oxen and sheep are seen, nor hens or dogs. After autumn's harvest, farm chores must be light. As the master held on to the saddle and slowly surveyed the scenery, Wukong and his brothers arrived. "Master," said Wukong, "you didn't fall off the horse." "You brazen ape," scolded the elder. "You were the one who frightened the horse. It's a good thing I managed to stay on him." Attempting to placate him with a smile, Pilgrim said, "Master, please don't scold me. It all began when Zhu 8 Rules said that the horse was moving too slowly, so I made him hurry a little." Because he tried to catch up with the horse, Idiot ran till he was all out of breath, bubbling to himself, "I'm done. Look at this belly of mine, and the slack torso. Already the pole is so heavy that I can hardly carry it. Now I'm given the additional bustle and toil of running after this horse." "Disciples," said the elder, "look over there. There's a small village where we may perhaps ask for lodging." When Pilgrim heard these words, he looked up and saw that it was covered by auspicious clouds and hollowed mists. He knew then that this place had to be a creation of Buddhas or immortals, but he dared not reveal the heavenly secret. No. He said only, Fine, let's go ask for shelter." Quickly dismounting, the elder discovered that the towered entrance gate was decorated with carved lotus designs and looped slits in the woodwork. Its pillars were carved and its beams gilded. Shao Monk put down the luggage, while 8 Rules led the horse, saying, "This must be a family of considerable wealth." Pilgrim would have gone in at once, but Tripitaka said, "No, you and I are priests, and we should behave with circumspection. Don't ever enter a house without permission. Let's wait until someone comes out, and then we may request lodging politely." 8 Rules tied up the horse and sat down, leaning against the wall. Tripitaka sat on one of the stone drums, while Pilgrim and Shao Monk seated themselves at the foot of the gate. They waited for a long time, but no one came out. Impatient by nature, Pilgrim leaped up after a while and ran inside the gate to have a look. There were, in fact, 3 large halls facing south, each with its curtains drawn up highly. Above the door screen hung a horizontal scroll painting with motifs of long life and rich blessings, and pasted on the gold-lacquered pillars on either side was this New Year couplet written on bright red paper. Frail willows float like gossamer, the low bridge at dusk. Snow dots the fragrant plums, a small yard in the spring. In the center hall, there was a small black lacquered table, its luster half gone, bearing an old bronze urn in the shape of a beast. There were 6 straight-backed chairs in the main hall, while hanging screens were mounted on the walls, east and west, just below the roof. He would give him that long, Montrose. As Pilgrim was glancing at all this furtively, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from behind the door to the rear, and out walked a middle-aged woman who asked in a seductive voice, "Who are you, that you dare enter a widow's house without permission?" The great sage was so taken aback that he could only murmur his reply. This humble monk came from the great Tang in the land of the East, having received the royal decree to seek scriptures from Buddha in the West. There are 4 of us altogether. As we reached your noble region, it became late, and we therefore approached the sacred abode of the old Bodhisattva to seek shelter for the night. Smiling amiably, the woman said, "Elder, where are your other 3 companions? Please invite them to come in." "Master," shouted Pilgrim in a loud voice, "you are invited to come in." Only then did Tripitaka enter with 8 rules and Sha monk, who was leading the horse and carrying the luggage as well. The woman walked out of the hall to greet them, where she was met by the furtive, wanton glances of 8 rules. "I got your noble region right here." How did she look, you ask? She wore a gown of mandarin green and silk brocade, topped by a light pink vest, to which was fastened a light yellow embroidered skirt. Her high-heeled, patterned shoes glinted beneath. A black lace covered her stylish coiffure, nicely matching the twin-colored braids like dragons coiled. Her ivory palace comb, gleaming red and halcyon blue, supported 2 gold hairpins set aslant. Her half-gray tresses swept up like phoenix wings. Her dangling earrings had rows of precious pearls. Still lovely, even without powder or rouge, she had charm and beauty like one fair youth. Her feet were nice. When the woman saw the 3 of them, she became even more amiable and invited them with great politeness into the main hall. After they had exchanged greetings one after the other, the pilgrims were told to be seated for tea to be served. From behind the screen, a young maid with 2 tufts of flowing locks appeared, holding a golden tray with several white jade cups. There were fragrant tea wafting warm air, strange fruits spreading fine aroma. That lady rolled up her colorful sleeves and revealed long, delicate fingers like the stalks of spring onions. That's not an idiom I would find attractive, but anyway. Holding high the jade cups, she passed the tea to each one of them, bowing as she made the presentation. After the tea, she gave instructions for vegetarian food to be prepared. "Old Bodhisattva," said Tripitaka, bowing, "what is your noble surname? And what is the name of your esteemed region?" Well, she's a Bodhisattva, apparently. The woman said, "This belongs to the West Aparagodania continent. My maiden surname is Jia, unreal, and the surname of my husband's family is Mo, non-existing. Unfortunately, my in-laws died prematurely, and my husband and I inherited our ancestral fortune, which amounted to more than 10,000 taels of silver and over 15,000 acres of prime land. It was fated, however, that we should have no son, having given birth only to 3 daughters. The year before last, it was my great misfortune to lose my husband also, and I was left a widow. This year, my mourning period is completed, but we have no other relatives beside mother and daughter to inherit our vast property and land. I would have liked to marry again, but I find it difficult to give up such wealth. We are delighted, therefore, that the 4 of you have arrived. For we four, mother and daughters, would very much like to ask you to become our spouses. I do not know what you will think of this proposal. I don't know what I think of this proposal. When Tripitaka heard these words, he turned deaf and dumb, shutting his eyes to quiet his mind. He fell silent and gave no reply. The woman said, We own over 300 acres of paddies, over 460 acres of dried fields, and over 460 acres of orchards and forests. We have over 1,000 head of yellow water buffalo, herds of mules and horses, countless pigs and sheep. In all four quarters, there are over 70 barns and haystacks. In this household, there is grain enough to feed you for more than 8 or 9 years, silk that you could not wear out in a decade, gold and silver that you might spend for a lifetime. What could be more delightful than our silk sheets and curtains, which can render spring eternal? Not to mention those who wear golden hairpins standing in rows. If all of you, master and disciples, are willing to change your minds and enter the family of your wives, you will be most comfortable having all these riches to enjoy. Will that not be better than the toil of the journey to the west? I think she does understand what a monk is. Like a mute and stupid person, Tripitaka refused to utter a word. The woman said, I was born in the hour of the cock, on the 3rd day of the 3rd month, in the year Dinghai. As my deceased husband was 3 years my senior, I am now 45 years old. My eldest daughter, named Zen Zen, is 20. My second daughter, Ai Ai, is 18, and my youngest daughter, Lian Lian, is 16. None of them have been betrothed to anyone. Though I am rather homely, my daughters fortunately are rather good-looking. Moreover, each of them is well trained in needlework and the feminine arts. And because we had no son, my late husband brought them up as if they were boys, teaching them some of the Confucian classics when they were young, as well as the art of writing verse and couplets. So, although they reside in a mountain home, they are not vulgar or uncouth persons. They would make suitable matches, I dare say, for all of you. If you elders could put away your inhibitions and let your hair grow again, you can at once become masters of this household. Are not the silk and brocade that you will wear infinitely better than the porcelain alms bowl and black robes, the straw sandal and grass hats? Sitting aloft in the seat of honor, Tripitaka was like a child struck by lightning, a frog smitten by rain. With eyes bulging and rolling upward, he could barely keep himself from keeling over in his chair. But 8 Rules, hearing of such wealth and such beauty, could hardly quell the unbearable itch in his heart. Sitting on his chair, he kept turning and twisting as if a needle were pricking him in the ass. I have no reason to suspect this sudden household at all. Finally, he could restrain himself no longer. Sorry for the double negative. Walking forward, he tugged at his master, saying, Master, how can you completely ignore what the lady has been saying to you? You must try to pay some attention. Jerking back his head, the priest gave such a hostile shout that 8 Rules backed away hurriedly. You cursed beast, he bellowed. We are people who have left home. How can we possibly allow ourselves any more to be moved by riches and tempted by beauty? Giggling, the woman said, Oh dear. Tell me, what's so good about those who leave home? Lady Bodhisattva, said Tripitaka, tell me what is so good about those of you who remain at home. Please take a seat, elder, said the woman, and let me tell you the benefits in the life of those who remain at home. If you ask what they are, this poem will make them abundantly clear. When spring fashions appear, I wear new silk. Pleased to watch summer lilies, I change to lace. Autumn brings fragrant rice wine newly brewed. In winter's heated rooms my face glows with wine. I may enjoy the fruits of all 4 climes, and every dainty of 8 seasons too. The silk sheets and quilts of the bridal eve, best a mendicant's life of Buddhist chants. Tripitaka said, Lady Bodhisattva, You who remain in the house can enjoy riches and glory. You have things to eat, clothes to wear, and children by your side. That is undeniably a good life, but you do not know that there are some benefits in the life of those of us who have left home. If you ask what they are, this poem will make them abundantly clear. The will to leave home is no common thing. You must tear down the old stronghold of love. No one cares without. Tongue and mouth are at peace. Your body within has good yin and yang. When merit's done, you face the golden arch and go hack, mind enlightened, to your home. It beats the life of lust for household meat. You rot with age, one stinking bag of flesh. When the woman heard these words, she grew terribly angry, saying, How dare you to be so insolent, you brazen monk? If I had no regard for the fact that you have come from the land of the East, I would have sent you away at once. Now, I was trying to ask you, with all sincerity, to enter our family and share our wealth, and you insult me instead, even though you have received the commandments and made the vow never to return to secular life. At least one of your followers could become a member of our family. Why are you being so legalistic? Seeing how angry she had become, Tripitaka was intimidated and said, Wukong, why don't you stay here? Pilgrim said, I've been completely ignorant in such matters since the time I was young. Let 8 Rules stay. Elder brother, said 8 Rules, don't play tricks on people. Let's all have some further discussion. If neither of you is willing, said Tripitaka, I'll ask Wu Jing to stay. Listen to the way Master is speaking, said Sha Monk. Since I was converted by the Bodhisattva and received the commandments from her, I've been waiting for you. It has been scarcely 2 months since you took me as your disciple and gave me your teachings, and I have yet to acquire even half an inch of merit. You think I would dare seek such riches? I will journey to the western heaven even if it means my death. I'll never engage in such perfidious activities. When the woman saw them refusing to remain, she quickly walked behind the screen and slammed the door to the rear. Master and disciples were left outside, and no one came out again to present tea or rice. Ouch. Exasperated, 8 Rules began to find fault with the Tang monk, saying, Master, you really don't know how to handle these matters. In fact, you have ruined all our chances by the way you spoke. You could have been more flexible and given her a vague reply, so that she would at least have given us a meal. We would at least have enjoyed a pleasant evening, and whether we would be willing to stay tomorrow or not would have been for us to decide. Now the door is shut, and no one is going to come out. How are we going to last through the night in the midst of these empty ashes and cold stoves? Second brother, said Wu Jing, why don't you stay here and become her son-in-law? 8 Rules said, Brother, don't play tricks on people. Let's discuss the matter further. What's there to discuss? Said Pilgrim. If you're willing, Master and that woman will become in-laws, and you will be the son-in-law who lives in the girl's home. With such riches and such treasures in this family, you will no doubt be given a huge dowry and a nice banquet to greet the kinsfolk, which all of us can also enjoy. Your return to secular life here will in fact benefit both parties concerned. Are you insulting me? I want misery. You can say that all right, said 8 Rules, but for me it's a matter of fleeing the secular life only to return to secular life, and leaving my wife only to take another wife. So second brother already has a wife, said Sha Monk. You didn't realize, Pilgrim said, that originally he was the son-in-law of Mr. Gao of the old Gao village in the kingdom of Koko. Since I defeated him, and since he had earlier received the commandments from the Bodhisattva, he had little choice but to follow the priestly vocation. That's the reason he abandoned his former wife to follow Master and to go worship Buddha in the Western Heaven. I suppose he has felt the separation keenly and has been brooding on it for some time. Just now, when marriage was mentioned, he must have been sorely tempted. Idiot! Why don't you become the son-in-law of this household? Just make sure that you make a few extra bows to Old Monkey, and you won't be reprimanded. Nonsense! Nonsense, said Idiot. Each one of us is tempted, but you only want Old Hog to be embarrassed. The proverb says, "A monk is the preta of sensuality." And which one of us can truly say that he doesn't want this? But you have to put on a show, and your histrionics have ruined a good thing. Now we can't even get a drop of tea or water, and no one is tending the lamps or fires. We may last through the night, but I doubt that the horse can. He has to carry someone tomorrow and walk again, you know. If he goes hungry for a night, he might be reduced to a skeleton. You people sit here while old Hog goes to graze the horse. Hastily, Idiot untied the reins and pulled the horse outside. "Shall Monk," said Pilgrim, "you stay here and keep Master company. I'll follow him and see where he is going to graze the horse." "Wukong," said Tripitaka, "you may go and see where he is going, but don't ridicule him." "I know," said Pilgrim. The great sage walked out of the main hall, and with one shake of his body he changed into a red dragonfly. He flew out of the front gate and caught up with 8 Rules. Idiot pulled the horse out to where there was grass, but he did not graze him there. Shouting and whooping, he chased the horse instead to the rear of the house, where he found the woman standing outside the door with 3 girls, enjoying the sight of some chrysanthemums. When mother and daughter saw 8 Rules approaching, the 3 girls slipped inside the house at once. But the woman stood still beside the door and said, "Little elder, where are you going?" Our Idiot threw away the reins and went up to greet her with a most friendly "Hello." Then he said, "Mama, I came to graze the horse." "Your master is much too squeamish," said the woman. "If he took a wife in our family, he would be much better off, wouldn't he, than being a mendicant trudging to the west?" "Well, they have all received the command of the Tang Emperor," said 8 Rules with a laugh, "and they haven't the courage to disobey the ruler's decree. That's why they are unwilling to do this thing. Just now, they were all trying to play tricks on me in the front hall, and I was somewhat embarrassed because I was afraid that Mama would find my long snout and large ears too offensive." "I don't really," said the woman, "and since we have no master of the house, it's better to take one than none at all. But I do fear that my daughters may find you somewhat unattractive." "Mama," said 8 Rules, "please instruct your noble daughters not to choose their men that way. Others may be more handsome, but they usually turn out to be quite useless. Though I may be ugly, I do live by certain principles." "And what are they?" asked the woman. 8 Rules replied, "Though I may be somewhat ugly, I can work quite diligently. 1,000 acres of land, you say? No need for oxen to plow it. I'll go over it once with my rake, and the seeds will grow in season. When there's no rain, I can make rain. When there's no wind, I'll call for wind. If the house is not tall enough, I'll build you a few stories more." "I may be quite ugly, but have you considered I'm also stupid?" "If the grounds are not swept, I'll give them a sweep. If the gutter's not drained, I'll draw it for you. All things both great and small around the house I am able to do most readily." "If you can work around the house," said the woman, "you should discuss the matter again with your master. If there's no great inconvenience, we'll take you." "No need for further discussion," said 8 Rules, "for he's no genuine parent of mine. Whether I want to do this or not is for me to decide." All right, said the woman. "Let me go talk to my girls first." She slipped back inside immediately and slammed the rear door shut. 8 Rules did not graze the horse there either, but led it back to the front. Little did he realize, however, that Great Sage's son had heard everything. With wings outstretched, the Great Sage flew back to see the Tang monk, changing back into his original form. "Master," he snitched, "Wu Ning is leading the horse back here." "Of course he's leading the horse," said the Tang monk, "for if he doesn't, it may run away in a fit of mischief." I love that. Pilgrim started to laugh and gave a thorough account of what the woman and 8 Rules had said, but Tripitaka did not know whether to believe him or not. In a little while, Idiot arrived and tied up the horse. "Have you grazed him?" asked the elder. "There's not much good grass around here," said 8 Rules, "so it's really no place to graze a horse." "It may not be a place to graze the horse," said Pilgrim, "but is it a place to lead a horse?" No, they didn't actually say he snitched. I said that. So I took a liberty, and I'm sorry. I'm a little sorry. When Idiot heard this question, he knew that his secret was known. He lowered his head and turned it to one side. With pouting lips and wrinkled brows, he remained silent for a long time. Just then, there's your just then, he heard the side door open with a creak, and out came a pair of red lanterns and a pair of portable incense burners. There were swirling clouds of fragrance and the sounds of tinkle girdle jade when the woman walked out leading her three daughters. Zen Zen, Ai Ai, and Lian Lian were told to bow to the scripture pilgrims, and as they did so, standing in a row at the main hall, they appeared to be most beautiful indeed. Look at them! Look at them! Each moth-like eyebrow painted halcyon blue, each pretty face aglow with spring-like hues. What beguiling, empire-shaking beauty! What ravishing, heart-jolting charm! Their filigreed headgears enhance their grace. Silk sashes afloat, they seem wholly divine. Like ripe cherries, their lips part half smiling, as they walk slowly and spread their orchid scent. Their heads full of pearls and jade, atop countless hairpins slightly trembling. Their bodies full of delicate aroma, shrouded by exquisite robes of fine golden thread. Why speak of lovely ladies of the south, or the good looks of Shizi? They look like the fairy ladies descending from the ninefold heaven, or the princess Change leaving her vast cold palace. When he saw them, Tripitaka lowered his head and folded his hands in front of him, while the great sage became mute and Shah Monk turned away completely. But look at that zoo 8 rules. With eyes unblinking, a mind filled with lust, and passion fast rising, he murmured huskily, "What an honor it is to have the presence of you, immortal ladies. Mamma, please ask these dear sisters to leave." The three girls went behind the screen, leaving the pair of lanterns behind. The woman said, "Have you four elders made up your mind which one of you shall be betrothed to my daughters?" "We have discussed the matter," said Wu Jing, "and we have decided that the one whose surname is Zhu shall enter your family." "Brother," said 8 Rules, "please don't play any tricks on me. Let's discuss the matter further." "What's there to discuss?" said Pilgrim. "You have already made all the arrangements with her at the back door, and even call her Mama. What's there to discuss any more? Master can be the in-law for the groom, while this woman here will give away the bride. Old Monkey will be the witness, and Shah Monk the go-between. There's no need even to consult the almanac, for today happens to be the most auspicious and lucky day. You come here and bow to Master, and then you can go inside and become her son-in-law." Nothing doing, said 8 Rules. "How can I engage in this kind of business?" "Idiot," said Pilgrim. "Stop this fakery. You have addressed her as Mama for countless times already. What do you mean by nothing doing? Agree to this at once, so that we may have the pleasure of enjoying some wine at the wedding." He caught hold of 8 Rules with one hand and pulled at the woman with the other, saying, "Mother-in-law, take your son-in-law inside." Somewhat hesitantly, Idiot started to shuffle inside, while the woman gave instructions to a houseboy, saying, "Take out some tables and chairs and wipe them clean. Prepare a vegetarian dinner to serve these 3 relatives of ours. I'm leading our new master inside." She further gave instructions for the cook to begin preparations for a wedding banquet to be held the next morning. "Please take him, he only whines." The houseboys then left to tell the cook. After the 3 pilgrims had eaten their meal, they retired to the guest rooms, and we shall say no more of them for the moment. We now tell you about 8 Rules, who followed his mother-in-law and walked inside. There were row upon row of doorways and chambers with tall thresholds, causing him to constantly stumble and fall. "Mama," said Idiot, "please walk more slowly. I'm not familiar with the way here, so you must guide me a little." The woman said, "These are all the storerooms, the treasuries, the rooms where the flour is ground. We have yet to reach the kitchen." "What a huge house," said 8 Rules. I was thinking something like that just now, Montrez, I'm not going to lie. "What a huge house," said 8 Rules. Stumbling along a winding course, he walked for a long time before finally reaching the inner chamber of the house. Son-in-law, said the woman, since your brother said that today is a most auspicious and lucky day, I have taken you in. In all this hurry, we have not had the chance of consulting an astrologer, nor have we been prepared for the proper wedding ceremony of worshipping heaven and earth and of spreading grains and fruits on the bridal bed. Right now, why don't you kowtow 8 times toward the sky? You are right, Mamma, said 8 Rules. You take the upper seat also, and let me bow to you a few times. We'll consider that my worship of heaven and earth, as well as my gesture of gratitude to you. Doing these 2 things at once will save me some trouble. All right, said his mother-in-law, laughing. You are indeed a son-in-law who knows how to fulfill your household duties with the least effort. I'll sit down, and you can make your bows. The candles on silver candlesticks were shining brightly throughout the hall as Idiot made his bows. Afterwards, he said, Mamma, which one of the dear sisters do you plan to give me? That's my dilemma, said his mother-in-law. I was going to give you my eldest daughter, but I was afraid of offending my second daughter. I was going to give you my second daughter, but I was afraid of then offending my third daughter. And if I were to give you my third daughter, I fear that my eldest daughter may be offended. That's why I cannot make up my mind. Mamma, said 8 Rules, and this is typical man thinking, if you want to prevent strife, why not give them all to me? That way, you will spare yourself a lot of bickering that can destroy the harmony of the family. Nonsense, said his mother-in-law. You mean you alone want to take all 3 of my daughters? Listen to what you're saying, Mamma. Who doesn't have 3 or 4 concubines nowadays? Well, this guy, for one. Even if you have a few more daughters, I'll gladly take them all. When I was young, I learned how to be long-lasting in the arts of love. You can be assured that I'll render satisfactory service to every one of them. This guy is in full guy mode. That's no good, said the woman. I have a large handkerchief here with which you can cover your head, blindfold yourself, and determine your fated marriage that way. I'm going to ask my daughters to walk past you, and then when you can catch with your hands, we'll be betrothed to you. Idiot accepted her suggestion and covered his head with his handkerchief. We have a testimonial poem that says, The fool knows not the true causes of things. Beauty's sword can in secret wound the self. The Duke of Zoo of old had fixed the rites, but a bridegroom today still veils his head. After Idiot had tied himself up properly, he said, Mamma, ask the dear sisters to come out. Zan Zan, aye, Lian Lian, cried his mother-in-law, you all come out and determine your fated marriage so that one of you may be given to this man. With the sounds of girdle jade and the fragrance of orchids, it seemed that some immortal ladies had suddenly appeared. Idiot, indeed, stretched forth his hands to try to catch hold of one of the girls, but though he darted about madly this way and that, he could not lay hands on anyone on either side of him. It seemed to him, to be sure, that the girls were making all kinds of movement around him, but he could not grab a single one of them. He lunged toward the east and wrapped his arms around a pillar. He made a dive toward the west and slammed into a wooden partition. Growing faint from rushing about like that, he began to stumble and fall all over the place, tripping on the threshold in front of him, smashing into the brick wall behind him. Fumbling and tumbling around, he ended up sitting on the floor with a bruised head and a swollen mouth. Thank you for that reference. That adds a little bit of context. Mama, he cried, panting heavily, you have a bunch of slippery daughters. I can't catch a single one of them. What am I to do? What am I to do? Taking off his blindfold, the woman said, Son-in-law, it's not that my daughters are slippery. It's just that they are all very modest. Each defers to the other so that she may take you. If they are unwilling to take me, Mamma, said 8 Rules, why don't you take me instead? "Dear son-in-law," said the woman, "you really have no regard for age or youth, when you even want your mother-in-law. My 3 daughters are really quite talented, for each one of them has woven a silk undershirt studded with pearls. Try them on, and the one whose shirt fits you will take you in." "Fine, fine, fine," said 8 Rules. "Bring out all 3 undershirts, and let me try them on. If they all fit me, they can all have me." Ha ha! The woman went inside and took out one undershirt, which she handed over to 8 Rules. Taking off his blue silk shirt, Idiot took up the undergarment and draped it over his body at once. Before he had managed to tie the strings, however, he suddenly fell to the floor. The undershirt, you see, had changed into several pieces of rope which had him tightly bound. As he lay there in unbearable pain, the woman vanished. Well, all I'll say is typical guy reaction. We'll leave it at that. We now tell you about Tripitaka, Pilgrim, and Shaw Monk, who woke up when it began to grow light in the east. As they opened their eyes, they discovered that all the noble halls and buildings had vanished. There were neither carved beams nor gilded pillars, for the truth of the matter was that they'd all been sleeping in a forest of pines and cedars. In a panic, the elder began to shout for Pilgrim, and Shaw Monk also cried, "Elder brother, we are finished. We have met some ghosts." The great sage son, however, realized fully what had happened. Smiling gently, he said, "What are you talking about?" "Look where we've been sleeping," cried the elder. It's pleasant enough in this pine forest," said Pilgrim, "but I wonder where that idiot is going through his ordeal." "Who is going through an ordeal?" asked the elder. Pilgrim answered with a laugh. "The women of that household happened to be some bodhisattvas from somewhere, who had waited for us to teach us a lesson. They must have left during the night, but unfortunately Zoo 8 Rules has to suffer." When Tripitaka heard this, he quickly folded his hands to make a bow. Then they saw a slip of paper hanging on an old cedar tree, fluttering in the wind. Shaw Monk quickly took it down for his master to read. On it was written the following 8-line poem. Though the old dame of Li Shan had no desire, Guan Yin invited her to leave the mount. Manjusri and Visvabhadra, too, were guests, who took in the woods the form of maidens fair. The holy monks virtuous and truly chaste, but 8 Rules profane, loving things mundane. Henceforth he must repent with quiet heart, for if he's slothful, the way will be hard. Yeah, but there's probably somebody who still thinks this situation is lucky. As the elder, Pilgrim, and Shaw Monk recited this poem aloud, they heard a loud call from deep in the woods. "Master, the ropes are killing me! Save me, please! I'll never dare do this again!" "Wukong," said Tripitaka, "is it Wu Neng who is calling us?" "Yes," said Shaw Monk. "Brother," said Pilgrim, "don't bother about him. Let us leave now." "Though Idiot is stupid and mischievous," said Tripitaka, "he is at least fairly honest, and he has arms strong enough to carry the luggage. Let's have some regard for the Bodhisattva earlier intention. Let's rescue him so that he may continue to follow us. I doubt that he'll ever dare do this again." Shaw Monk thereupon rolled up the bedding and put the luggage in order, after which the great sage son untied the horse to lead the Tang monk into the woods to see what had happened. Ah! So it is that you must take care in the pursuit of truth to purge desires, and you'll enter the real. We do not know what sort of good or evil was in store for the idiot. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter, which we'll tackle next week.